Hello, guys. Welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are doing well. Oh man, I just had some raw garlic. Straight up took some raw garlic and drank it with water. It's actually a really good remedy. I really recommend it because I've just had like an infection, and I really recommend people to take raw garlic. Sometimes it's very good for. It's good for your heart health. It's good as an antibiotic. It's good against infections. It cleans your blood. It does a lot of good things in the body. So anyway, topic of today is about psychological control, and I want to explain to you guys why it's really important for you guys to understand basically what control means and what it's all about. And once you understand this issue of control, especially as I've tied it back to the gang stalkers, but specifically to narcissists, like I said, of course, most of these gang stalkers are narcissists. The issue of control is very, 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 very important to these narcissists. And oftentimes, if you're being gang stalked, if this thing is happening to you, all of it boils down to control. So all the rivers meet together and they flow together and meet at the same place, and that place is the lake of control. So first of all, I just want to talk a little bit about something a little bit like philosophical, but also talk about definitions. What is control? What is the definition of control? Well, there are many ways you can define control, but I think the easiest, simplest way to define control would be the ability of someone to have an impact or influence over your behavior in so much as the behavior is changed in the desired manner. So if I am able to control you, that means I'm able to change your behavior in the ways that I want. So an example of this would be, if I come every day to your house, and I threaten you with a baseball bat and I say, I'm going to beat you up if you don't clean the dining table. And you have to do this every day. And I'm going to come and make sure that you do it with a baseball bat. That would, of course, be a good example of control, but also the toxic type of control that we're talking about when it comes to gang stalking. So basically, because of my threats, my behavior, I am able to influence you, your actions, in a way that I see fit. So you are doing exactly what I want you to do. This is like a classical, I think, definition of control. Now, control oftentimes, but not all the time, involves some form of manipulation. Now, you can argue that most types of control are a form of manipulation because the word manipulation actually comes to the Latin word for manus, which is the hands. So you're doing something with your hands and you're manipulating something. Literally means you're changing something with your hands. That's the Latin definition. But for the sake of the English language, we often use manipulation in a very somewhat separate definition than control. Control is defined in ways that are a little bit slightly different to manipulation. But guys, it doesn't really matter in the end. Control is oftentimes a form of manipulation. So if somebody's controlling you in your life or controlling some aspect of your life, it's a form of manipulation. Now, what I really want to get at here in this episode, or this video, is that control is oftentimes of a psychological nature, not a physical nature. And I'm going to explain what I'm saying very clearly. Now, if you take the example of, let's say, a jock or a bully who is very big, very tall, very muscled, and he goes after some wimpy little kid and threatens him and says, if you don't give me your lunch, I'm gonna beat you up. So you have the classical case of the jock who beats up, or at least threatens, the little kid and takes his money or lunch or whatever. Obviously, the kid, the wimp, is responding to all of this in the desired fashion of the jock, precisely because he is afraid of what he would do to him. So, of course, this form of control is purely, if you really think about it, it is purely psychological. It's all being played out in psychology because the bully did not actually have to physically beat the shit out of the wimp to get what he wants. It's just an insinuated threat of physical violence, which led to the desired outcome or the control to occur. So this is oftentimes the case. More often than not, you can see this in politics, for example, with like America and NATO against Russia. Russia's always like posturing and like, hey, but you guys forget something, we Ruskies, we have the nuclear weapons, and we can use the nuclear weapons on you in America, and we have the technology, we can bomb USA, New York, we can bomb everything. Sorry about that, guys. So anyway, this kind of political posturing happens a lot of times, because it's all about the psychological aspect. People don't oftentimes want to get into scuffles. They don't want to get into the physical and dirty aspect of things, and that's why most things tend to play out in the psychological realm. So for this purpose, more often than not, control usually happens as or manifests itself in a psychological way. So we're talking about psychological control, not physical control. Of course, there are many examples. It can happen that this abusive or toxic person who's trying to control the people around him or her is actually be willing to use physical violence. You can think about the mafia, for example. Mafia comes, threatens a couple of people and says, if you don't cooperate, we're going to basically racketeer you. If you don't cooperate, we're going to do this and this and that. Of course, the people just cooperate because they're afraid of what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. But of course, to set an example, sometimes the mafia goes out and actually does something. They actually beat people up or kill them or whatever they do to send a message. Like, we're not, all talk. We can actually do something. Anyway, so back to the topic, which is me basically delving as deep as I can into the the psychological aspect of control, or the different aspects of psychological control, is that, so I'm saying basically is that most times control is not physical, it is psychological. And that's why the psychological aspect is very important. And this is why I always repeat to you guys, I say, you have to always be at your sharpest, and you always have to be at your best mentality and at your best psychologically. So never let the psychological element influence you. Don't be scared. Don't be afraid. Don't be, don't lose self-esteem and that kind of stuff. Right. I want to talk about something which is very interesting. Think about it this way. I believe, this is just my belief, but I could be wrong. My belief is that I think you have an advantage by not being afraid of the psychological control aspect of gang stalking than if you are. So what I'm trying to say is that the more you are afraid of the gang stalking, the more you lose, because you allow them to control you, to control your life. Because the best way they can control you and control your life is basically to make you afraid, because what they basically want is people to be just, stuck in their room all day long and can't leave their house for months on end. That kind of stuff. I've heard that happen to people. And obviously, if you're in that position, you are very, very easy to manipulate. You're very easy to control. They have the ultimate control over you because, you know, they know they've managed to grow so big in your psyche and in your life that, you know, this is all you see, basically. All you see is gang stalkers everywhere. Now, what I'm talking about, I'm gonna give an example of the psychopath. So this is not to glorify psychopaths. This is not to say something positive about psychopaths. I don't think psychopathy is a good thing. I don't think it's something that should be glorified or venerated in any kind of way. But psychopaths, as far as this type of bullying tactics and intimidation tactics, and scare tactics, and even gang stalking, would definitely have an advantage. And the reason for that is very simple, because the reason why psychopaths are difficult to control, to influence negatively, and coerce, the reason for that is because psychopaths are not afraid of the people who are throwing around these threats or who are acting in such bullying manner. Psychopaths just don't register with that fucking fear. They're not afraid. They're not afraid. Even if the cost is death, even if the cost is potentially getting wounded or shot or knifed or killed or whatever, they are just not afraid. They don't allow fear to enter in their hearts. And, this is obviously not a good thing because humans need some modicum level of fear, rational fear. Like, obviously, you should be afraid of fire to some extent. Like, you're not just going to put your hand in the fire and that kind of thing. Okay. You got what I'm saying, right? So, but it's very interesting to kind of like sit here and kind of like analyze the situation of the psychology of the psychopath. Is that essentially that it's their low fear, unemotional response to fear triggers and like this kind of bullying and intimidation that allows them not to be controlled. And it's actually, I know you guys probably watched the series Dexter. I think a lot of people like that series. I did. I watched it. I loved it. But there was a scene in that series that I really, really liked. Basically, it shows Dexter when he was back in high school, and there was two of these like kids, these jocks, that sort of passed by him, trying to bully him, and they kind of like deliberately ran into him and pushed him over, and then they're like laughing or giggling or something like that, as any bully would typically do, that kind of jockey, testing boundaries sort of behavior. And beautiful thing about Dexter is his response was not fear or intimidation. He wasn't scared. On the contrary, he was very angry. He was very wrathful, and he actually took a knife from his pocket, and he was actually looking at those people and contemplating stabbing them to death. And then, his father, Harry, came along and said, no, son, you can't do this because when you kill somebody, blah, 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 all that stuff about morality, that kind of stuff. But again, I mean, I'm not saying that Dexter's reaction was good. Obviously, going as far as trying to murder people that just because they kind of tried to bully you is probably not something that we would recommend. But it does show you the resilience that psychopaths have. It does show you the advantage that a psychopath would have in such a situation where there's this rapport de force and bullying and so on and so forth, that they're just not being affected in the way that is, I guess, at least intended. I'm sure the bullies would have, bullies thrive on scaring other people. They want to know that you're scared of them. So he did not get scared. Obviously, he reacted in a way that he actually got righteously angry and wanted to attack them. So this is, going back to the topic, basically, is that psychopaths have an advantage. They have an immunity to psychological aspects of control, because they are simply not afraid. They don't care what you think, and they are also, most importantly, not afraid of you. So whatever threats you're going to use, whatever intimidation tactics, whatever you're going to say, They're just not afraid of you, so they're not going to do as you please. And yeah, so this is basically all to say that although I do not glorify psychopaths, I do not think you should be a psychopath. I do not think acting like a psychopath or being a psychopath is actually a good thing. But as far as this element is concerned, being a little bit fearless in the face of gang stalking, not being afraid of the gang stalking, not being afraid of the gang stalkers, will actually be the key through which you can break free from this cage, that this mental cage that they have actually managed to create around a lot of targeted individuals. Because this is the thing I see with most of you guys, is you're paralyzed by fear. It is the fear of these people that is paralyzing, that is controlling your life. This is how they control people, through fear. If they can get you to be so afraid, deathly afraid of their like silly little scare tactics, they got you by the balls. They really do control you. They can control a lot of things. They can get you to run around like a whatever scared little kid from place to place. They can get you to leave certain apartments that you would otherwise want to stay in. They can force you to leave places that you really like, countries that you really like. They can force you to do a lot of things that you would normally not do had the gang stalking not been there. So think about this. When you're thinking about the gang stalking, think about all the things that you have done as a reaction to the gang stalking. And I'm talking especially the fearful aspect of it, the fearful reactions that you have done in response to gang stalking. And think about how many of those things would you not have done had the gang stalking was not actually there. This is all boiling down to one thing, which is that if you want to hold the reins, if you want to have the control over your life and don't want your gang stalkers to control you, the only key I can give you to break free from all of this is literally you have to stop being afraid of them. That's the only solution there is. If you're afraid of gang stalkers, actually, I'll say it this way. The more you are afraid of them, the more they can control you. The less you're afraid of them, the less control they're going to have over you. That's basically how it is. So, yeah. Like I said, I see a lot of you guys that are living in a virtual cage, a virtual prison. You're allowing this to happen to you. I'm sorry, man. Like, I know the gang stalkers are doing horrible, horrible things. This is their goal. This is what they want. They're trying to, all of this scare tactics, if you think about it. What is all this scare tactics all about? And again, it's to control you. It's to have ultimate control of your life. You guys doing this to yourself. Don't allow these people. For example, if I have a car and I know I can lock it and I have a shotgun as well in my car, and some dude comes up and tries to rob me, and he starts like taking a rock and trying to like smash into my windows and stuff like that. I'm not just gonna sit there terrified and do nothing. No, because eventually he's gonna break through the glass. He's probably gonna take the shotgun and shoot me. And God knows what he's gonna steal a car, he's gonna steal everything, right? So, yeah. So obviously what you want to do is to get rid of the fear so that you can act in that situation. That situation, when you are not afraid, becomes a lot easier to handle and the outcome becomes a million times better. Now, when you're not afraid, the outcome is a million times better. You put your key in the lock, you get your car, and then you just go back a little bit and then drive off. You got your shotgun with you, and nothing's gonna happen. A couple of scratches on the windows, that can be repaired. Nothing's gonna happen. You're just gonna get out of there. So yeah, this is basically how gang stalking is. The outcome, how things pan out, has a lot to do with how much you react with fear to all of this. How much fear how fearful or how afraid you are of the gang stalkers and of the gang stalking. And yeah, so that's basically it. I've explained what control is, what it means, what it's all about, and that it's mostly psychological if you really think about it. And that therefore, that means it's very important to work on the psychological aspect and to not be afraid, because the less you are afraid of these bullies, the less afraid you are of bullying, intimidation, scare tactics, extortion, whatever these people are trying to do to you, the less manipulated and the less control these people are going to have over you, basically. Because again, there's no, there's a huge difference between someone who's so scared of the gang stalkers that he literally can't leave his house for months on end. Obviously, think about the effects this is having on the quality of your life. You can't work, you can't go see your friends, you can't see your family, you can't do nothing, man. How can you function at any level if you're just staying at home all day? And think about the example of somebody who sees the gang stalkers, whatever. I'm like walking down the street and I see a couple of people like stalking me, and then they, use the typical cuss words, oh, faggot, bitch, cunt, asshole, whatever. And I see the directed conversations, and I see some dude passing by the car and honking at me, and I see some people doing street theater, and I just look at that and I don't react with fear. I just look at it like, whatever, man. These people are gonna leave anyway, and they do. So if you think about it, the effect is actually becomes pretty minimal. If they can't affect you psychologically, there's literally nothing they can do to you, because in the end, it's pretty ridiculous. That guy just wasted his time. He came, he passed by, literally spent all that energy to pass by you and call you a bitch or a faggot or some fucking thing, and then ran away. So what? That didn't do nothing to you. It had no effect on you. If it does not affect you psychologically, then it's as if it never happened almost. It's, guys, I'm not trying to downplay the pain and the suffering and the things that you're going through. I know it's very hard. But I'm just saying, if you really, really think about it, a lot of this is just psychological. If you can toughen up mentally and you can deal with this stuff, it just becomes a bit of a joke, Yeah, whatever. This dude passes by my house and with his car and honks at me, hey, and then he rolls down the window and yells, ah, some stupid shit like that. Whatever, man. I've seen that a million times. I'm not afraid of you. I don't care what you. I'm not even angry at this point. I'm just like, whatever, man. You know what I mean? It doesn't. If you're at a point mentally where you can just go on with your day and function normally, then you have nothing to worry about. I am actually currently in that point in my life. I'm very, very happy. I laugh and giggle all the time during my day, and although I don't have the life that I used to, like I was somewhat successful, I had a good career and that kind of stuff. But still, I'm in a mentally speaking, I'm doing pretty good. And I remember a time when just kind of recently when I was in England. Went back in England in 2018, and I worked for this company for like a year. And that was actually a pretty stable time in my life as well. Mentally, I was doing pretty well. I was going to the gym on a daily basis, eating really healthy, meeting lots of women here and there, connecting with people. Not that much, obviously. It's limited with gang stalking, but whatever, man. And things were good. I managed to keep my job for like a year, so that was pretty good. Anyway, guys, I don't have much more to say about this. I'll see you guys in the next one.